is Twincy Knit.
This is Rachel.
And this is Jessica.
And this is our channel where we talk about all the things that we've been making lately, which is 90% knitting, but occasionally we dabble in sewing and some other crafts.
And today is going to be just a normal podcast episode. Oh my gosh, how long has it been?
I think it's been a month.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. It's been about a month since our last podcast, we think.
Yes.
It's been a little bit. We've got some knitting done.
Yeah. So do you want to start with what you're wearing?
Yes. I didn't make what I'm wearing. So I borrowed this from Jessica's closet because no, that's not true. I did make what I'm wearing, kind of. I'll stand up, but I'll insert some better footage too. I made a Henrietta skirt by Spaghetti Western. Sorry you don't see my face anymore, but it's got these really cute little side ruffles. And with the gingham that I chose, I didn't feel like I had not even just a store-bought garment. Like, I don't feel like I had anything that really went well with this. I actually ordered something, but it hasn't come in yet. And so I was reading Jessica's closet and was like, oh, this would be a really nice neutral sweater to put with this for today because I really wanted to wear this skirt today. And so this is the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit. Let me see if I can get the info right. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Monday sweater by PetiteKnit, and Jessica knit it in Knitting for Olive Nordic Beach and the mohair. I don't know what mohair color you put with it.
Okay, so for the longest time I thought both of them were the Nordic Beach.
I don't think that's true.
No, someone pointed out to me on my Ravelry page that I think, oh my gosh, I'm probably going to get this wrong. I think the mohair was the linen color, and I think the merino is Nordic Beach.
The merino for sure is Nordic Beach. I remember when you ordered it because I ordered a bunch too. So we had like 10 skeins come in that order or something like that.
Yeah. So I think the mohair is linen.
Okay. I don't know if I could tell you yes or no. But I really like it, and I'm going to try to recreate this at some point because I'm like, dang, I want to steal it really bad.
It's my most worn sweater. Yeah. It's just easy to like throw on. It feels like a sweatshirt.
Yeah, and the color is very neutral.
I've made it in yellow, but I kind of want to just make it in every color. I think it's going to be my go-to, if I just need a basic raglan to work on, just a bunch of stockinette.
Well, and I'm going to knit this in a caramelly brown color because I already have the yarn for it. I haven't cast it on yet because I've got a lot of whips, more than normal. But once I finish a couple things, I am going to knit a Monday. So thanks for letting me borrow your stuff.
Yes. Well, I'm wearing my Lakes Pullover by Ozetta, which is knit in 2 strands of merino held together with 1 strand of mohair from Knitting for Olive in the colorway Red Currant. And so it's just a really nice saddle shoulder pullover. I really liked this one because it has a really wide collar.
I love that about it.
I feel like
Ozetta
really
has good collars.
Thick ribbon. Yeah, she does. She has good collars.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing.
And I think this is, oh my gosh, I think this is 4 inches of ribbing. Don't quote me, I'm not 100% sure, but she has a lot of really thick ribbed sweaters, which I really like. So I'm very happy with how it turned out. I feel like red is just so popular right now. And then also we live in Kansas City, and so of course the Chiefs is our sports team. So I think not only am I going to get a lot of use out of it day to day this fall because the color is so trendy, but I think probably on Thursdays and Sundays and a few Monday nights, I'll probably get a lot of use out of it then too.
Red's never going out of style in Kansas City.
No, no. It's not quite the same as the one that Taylor Swift wore to a game last year, but I feel like it has similar vibes.
Yes.
Hers is definitely different. It's not...
Are you talking about her Super Bowl sweater?
Yeah, I don't think hers is a saddle shoulder the way that this one was.
I think it was a drop shoulder.
I think it was.
I looked at that sweater a lot because I really wanted to recreate it. And then a story for one of my whips is that it changed into something else.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm very happy with how this one turned out. It's very warm. It's kind of funny. I wouldn't consider myself a worsted weight Like, I wouldn't, like, say, like, oh, I gravitate a lot towards worsted weight sweaters, but all of the sweaters that I have right now, that, like this one that I just finished, and then the two that I'm working on are all worsted weight. So I guess that's just, like, the time of year that I'm in that I'm gravitating towards.
It is feeling good to, like, because I'm kind of in the same boat, like bigger gauges than I normally work with, I think. And even though I say this and I haven't finished anything, it is feeling fast. Like they are working up quickly, I think. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I only have one finished object this time. I don't know what happened, but I think that you have more if you want to talk about any of your
I've got two
finished pieces.
I'll talk about my first sweater that I finished, because it's actually very similar to this sweater in the sense that it's also a saddle shoulder sweater that's like kind of oversized and cozy for winter, but it is a different gauge and stitch pattern. So I did finally finish my Chantal sweater by Moreca Knits, and it's knit using a sport weight yarn held together with a fingering, and it's made in like this slip stitch pattern. So even though it's called the Chantal sweater, in my mind I kept calling this the slip stitch sweater. I think the exact yarn that I used was Chibi Sport by Moondrake yarn, which was purchased back in, I think, March during a knitting retreat that we went to, and then held together with Isager's Silk Mohair. And the mohair is much more purple than the sport weight. The sport is more of like just a lilac-y color. I think the colorway was called Sand. So when I bought it, I thought it was going to be like
really beige.
Very beige, very neutral. And then when it had all these like pink lilac undertones, that's when I paired it with this mohair. So this has actually been on the needles for quite a while. I think episode 13 back in like May was when I really started on it. And then, you know, summer came and I just knew I wasn't going to wear it for a long time. So it kind of just was like a lingering whip for a while. But then when we did our fall knitting plans, I was like, okay, I want to go into fall feeling fresh and like I can cast on new things and not have like things lingering out there. So I did go ahead and finish it.
It does feel pretty light considering the fact that it's got so many slip stitches.
Yeah, it's definitely more dense than like what I would maybe.
Like just a plain stock net.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel
super heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was one where I knew I was playing yarn chicken with the sport weight. Like I knew I wouldn't have enough to do the full length of the body, but I wasn't 100% sure how far I would get. So I did the whole yoke and then the collar and both sleeves before I finished the body. And as I was getting close to running out of yarn, what I did was I would like knit a row and then weigh the yarn. And then I would knit another row and I would weigh the yarn. And I think I did that like 4 or 6 times because it's a stitch pattern of 2 rows. So I like did the math to figure out like, okay, on average, every 2 rows uses this much yarn. And then I knit until I had just enough to do the ribbing at the bottom. So it is 2 inches cropped.
And it's a very small ribbing.
It's very small ribbing. And it's interesting, the ribbing on this pattern is, for the sleeve cups and the hem, it's 1 by 1, but then the collar is a 2 by 2, which is interesting.
That would bother some people.
Yeah, I think it would.
But I like it. I think that's nice.
Yeah. I'm really happy with how it fits. And honestly, like, even though I cropped it by 2 inches, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, I think it's the perfect
It still looks very long. Like, it doesn't look like a cropped sweater to me.
No, I don't think it does. Even when I'm wearing it, I'm like, I think if I'd done it 2 inches longer, it might have looked weird or been like harder to tuck into pants.
Yeah. No, I think that looks fine.
Yeah. One thing that was kind of different about, because these are both saddle shoulders, so I found myself comparing them a lot. This one, on the saddle shoulder itself, there was some short rows. So you can see that like this part is lower than this part. So that was kind of interesting. Whereas the Ozetta Lakes pullover, the saddle is just like a rectangle. Whereas this one's more of like a trapezoid because you did short rows.
The saddle shoulder that I have on the needles is more like this, where it's plain. There's no short rows there.
Yeah. I like it, honestly. I think the short row shaping here, I don't know. I think it was just like a nice detail, just like extra thought went into the way that that was shaped, which I really liked.
The one thing, it's a beautiful pattern.
It's a beautiful pattern. The one thing that I did change about this pattern though is that, and I talked about this more back in the video in which I had originally started this, so I don't remember exactly what I did at this point. It's been so long, but I remember the pattern was written so that you do the 2 saddle shoulders, and then you do the front, which has additional shaping, and then you cast on for the back, which also has short row shaping. But whenever you do like certain pieces, some pieces would have you do the slip stitches on the wrong side, and then some of them would have you do it on the right side, I think, so that it wasn't consistent, so that, like, you know,
every single time you're doing the same thing.
Yes, and I switched it so that I would be doing that. So some pieces have additional setup rows, but at this point I don't remember which pieces they are.
If you can't tell, I feel like it's probably not that big of a change.
I don't think it made a big difference. I think it was just easier for me to know, like, okay, I'm doing the same thing every right side row and every wrong side row.
Yeah.
So it is possible to do that.
Oh, I love that double ribbing.
It's so fun.
That's really pretty.
This honestly is not a color that I like wear a lot. Like, I don't wear a lot of lilac, so I'm not 100% sure how to style it, but I'm gonna figure it out because it is just a really cute cozy sweater.
Okay, so I completely abandoned a lot of stuff, which I try not to do normally, but I'm trying to think what I think last time I had a bag that I said I would probably put away because it felt very summery and I'm not going to use it for a while, so I'm not as inspired to work on it. And then I had the Are pullover, which I had kind of debated. You had knit a size 1. I kind of thought, looking at the measurements recommended in the pattern, I would want a size 2 just because I like a little bit oversized. And then knitting it, it was like looking good, honestly, until I got pretty far into the yoke. And then as I was almost done with that piece. And I was like, oh, this is like way too big, like bad. And so I actually had my husband try it on and it looked good in the yoke for him, but then the sleeves were just really tight and the body was like tighter than it should have been. So the yoke itself would have been good, but then the rest of it was like, and I was like, this is not, I don't know. I couldn't continue to use yarn that I loved and time on it. And I actually started to frog it and didn't even finish that. So I really just completely abandoned it for now, which I will go back to at some point when I'm more inspired. But you know, when you're kind of frustrated with yourself and you're like, I just need to walk away for a little bit. So that happened. I feel like there were other...
That yarn's so beautiful. You want to like love what you make with it.
And that's the first Isager mohair that I've ever used. And that mohair is like heavenly. And so yeah, I just want to love it. And we're going to put it away for a little bit. She'll make an appearance again. But no, we're done with the Are pullover for now. I feel like there was another thing. But anyway, this is all that I have finished so far in the past month, which feels like not a lot, but that's fine. These are the season socks by Summer Lee, and I knit it in Coast to Coast Classic Sock in, I believe it's the color Seafoam. I started a different pair of socks with this yarn quite a while ago, so I had already gotten rid of the label, but I think it's Seafoam. And somebody on the last episode that I showed these in had said that she thinks that these were a colorway from when they did like a Wichita yarn crawl, I think is what it was, a Wichita, Kansas yarn crawl, because I think this was before Coast to Coast had an actual storefront. It was just the dye shop, but she had opened up her location for the yarn crawl, I think is the situation. If I'm giving not correct information, I'm so sorry, but somebody commented that they thought that that might have been where the colorway came from, because I ordered these in like an in-stock like online sale situation, And so I was like, I don't know what collection these would be from, but maybe they don't have a collection.
They're doing their own thing.
Yeah,
That's okay.
it's just a color, like a one-off color situation. And I got coffee with some friends. We got coffee with some friends, and they were like the exact same color as the matcha drinks at the coffee shop. It was so sweet. And so ultimately, I really, really love these socks. I feel like they took me a lot longer than it normally takes me to knit
but
socks.
this pattern has so many slip stitches that it's gonna take longer. Like
Yeah.
the row gauge is so much shorter.
Yes. And I talked about this last time too, so I'll try not to go too in depth. But how do I explain this? The stockinette on the foot has a bigger gauge or larger gauge than the short rows because the short rows like condense it. So I did short rows throughout.
You mean the slip stitches condense it?
Yes. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong.
Yeah.
But I did a whole bunch of short rows on the top of the foot to make it a little bit more even. And I've also seen where people recommend you use a smaller needle size on the foot than this part, but I didn't do that because I think I started these when we were traveling and I didn't have multiple size needles. And so I was like, I'll just work with the resources that I have. But they took a long time. Like I have another pair of socks on the needles now and I just feel like they're flying compared to these.
Yeah. I knit those. Well, I knit one sock and then frogged it in this pattern before you figured out the short row trick. Because when I did it, if I take this, it looked like when you take this like foot part, it was like scrunched up and like
yes, it would have been like
it was like a clown
like a boat
sock
type of thing.
Yeah,
like, that's what it kind of looked like.
Yes, it was like a little boat, and it looked fine when I was like trying them on and wearing them. So maybe it would have blocked out if I had just kept going, but it just was bothering me. It didn't look good.
Let me do a close up if I can of this texture because it really is a beautiful texture and I do think it was worth it in the end. Like I would make these again because they're just like classic
so
cozy.
thick.
They're thick, but they don't feel like a heavy, chunky thick. They just feel like warm, good winter socks, you know?
Yeah.
I like them. And I think it would almost be fun to see, I don't know, maybe somebody's tried this already. I don't think that I'm like crazy to think this. I almost wonder with the slip stitches if you could like alternate colors and create some sort of color texture with it. I kind of want to try it sometime because it's like a 4-row repeat. I don't want to give away too much of the pattern because it's paid, like a paid pattern. But I feel like the way that the slip stitches work out, if you alternated like changing colors every 2 rows or something, it could create a really interesting, like not just a texture, but also color.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see if we play with that sometime in the future because it really is a nice classic pattern. Anyway, that's the only thing that I finished in the past month.
Well, I finished one other thing, and that is my little totally rad ribbed socks by Summer Lee. So I've made this pattern before, but previously I used like the 3 stripe method, and this time I did 2. So the 2 stripes are just a little bit thicker than when she recommends doing 3 stripes. And I did change a couple of things about the pattern. She recommends doing the striped portion in just plain stockinette, but I chose to do that in ribbed as well because whenever I made it in stockinette, I found that like this part was just a little bit thicker, which you couldn't tell when you were wearing it, but when it's laying flat, it didn't look quite as nice.
We like our socks to look pretty no matter what.
No matter what. And then I'm trying to think. I think too when she gets to the foot, it might be stockinette, and I kept the ribbing going all the way down. It's like a 3x1 rib. So I'll hold it up to see if the camera will kind of show what I'm talking about there. You can see how like the 3x1 rib goes all the way down from the leg to the toe. And then the 2 yarns that I used were both Coast to Coast, I believe the classic sock base, and the main color is Thimblet, and then the like orange color is the Rooibos, based off of a tea. So both of them are from the fantasy coffee class. Okay, yes, I think we've been saying Rubios, which is what it looks like if you
read it in English. Or like the English.
To me, that's how it looks like, because it's like Rooibos. But someone commented and said it's Rooibos, I think. That's how they said it.
It's beautiful.
I know it's a type of tea, and I've looked for it in multiple not coffee shops, grocery stores around me. I haven't found it yet, so I might have to order it online.
I haven't found it either. We'll have to order it someday.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. I was hoping to actually use the like orange sock yarn first. Like I wanted to make a solid pair of socks with it and then use the extras for this because I knew I wanted to use the Thimblet with the Rooibos as like the contrast color. I tried so many patterns with that yarn though, and I just like couldn't. It wasn't working. Like for whatever reason, this yarn was just not. It was not having it. So I need to go back to it and figure out what they want to be. But at the moment, I knew the Thimblet wanted to be this. So we at least got one pair of socks done.
Mine, I knit the citrine socks by VertKnit, and I thought they were really sweet.
Yeah, I might have to just copy because I'm like running out of ideas for
Yeah, do it. I think that looks really good with it.
Yeah. Oh, and I did knit these on US 1 needles with 72 stitches. If anyone cares.
For works in progress, that's your last finished object, right?
Yes.
For works in progress, do you want to keep the socks going or do you want to move on to something different?
Totally up to you.
Why don't I, sorry, I have 2 more stitches. You all understand, right? Why don't I talk about my red sweater? Because I have, I have a red sweater as well. And I posted on my Instagram, I was like, I think I'm going to try to finish this by September 5th, which was the first Chiefs game. It did not happen, really mostly because I ended up not having the right needle for the sleeve. So Jessica kindly brought that for me today so I can go back to this. I am knitting this on size US 9, and apparently I don't have a US 9 16-inch circular needle, and I almost went and bought one, but you said you had one. I was like, I'll wait.
Yeah.
So,
don't blame me.
So this is my cardigan number 9 in progress, and I am knitting it in 2 different yarns, but one of them is the same as the one that you used for this. So I'm knitting it in Are Knitters Meripaca in the color, I believe it's Poppy Red. And they kindly gifted me that yarn, which was very nice of them. And then I paired it with Knitting for Olive Red Currant. And I just really am excited to have a red cardigan.
It'll be really cute.
It's not blocked, so I feel like it's not looking like as great as it will be eventually. But we can see where the collar is right now. She's going to have toggle buttons. And this one is also a saddle shoulder, just like your construction is.
I feel like yours is almost like the cart. I mean, they're different designers because that's my favorite thing's knitwear, and this one's Ozetta, but I feel like that's like the cardigan version of this one almost.
I really think they're similar.
The gauge is different too because I use US 8 and you're using US 9.
Yeah, this is size, or the gauge is 16 stitches for 4 inches. I know that because I feel like I worked a different process for finding this pattern than I normally do, which is normally I start with either a pattern I want to knit and find the yarn, or I'll have yarn and then match the pattern, but I'll like kind of play with the gauge to get there. And this time, without having any sort of pattern in mind, I just took the yarn and swatched it to see what fabric I liked. And then I was like, okay, so I'm getting about 16 stitches. Let me find a pattern with a 16 stitch gauge. And I kind of like that because then I went into the pattern completely knowing like this is exactly how it's going to turn out, as opposed to starting with a pattern hoping that the gauge will work for it, or like trying to make it work.
Yeah, like you knew you liked the fabric before you picked the pattern.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know, something to consider. One thing I will point out about this pattern that I kind of like, and it doesn't look 100% yet because I think blocking will really make a difference, is there is some double knitting before you start the ribbing on the collar. And I think it creates a really interesting finish to it. So I'll see if I can show that. Again, it's not blocked. It's probably not looking as beautiful as it will someday, but I don't know. I thought that was a nice design. And I remember this.
I honestly don't know if I like it.
You don't?
I don't know.
Do. Okay, so when I knitted the Nord pullover, it had a similar look, but it was achieved by knitting stockinette on both. So you picked up stockinette on the right side and the wrong side. You knitted like 4 rows on, or whatever it was. On this it was 4 rows. But you knitted so much and then like combine the stitches together to start your ribbing. And I didn't like that. But this one you just pick up on the right side, do double knitting. And then, I don't know, I like it.
Yeah, I might.
You don't?
I don't know.
What? Okay, well, I do. So it's my sweater.
Teresa, I don't know. Maybe
my cardigan. Once it's blocked, maybe you'll be like, wow, I'm sold.
Yeah, I bet when it's blocked, I'll really like it.
So hopefully I'll have it finished before too long. It goes so fast. Like, I think I could have done it in like 2 weeks if I had had the needles. But I didn't. So, and I'm going to do the toggle buttons too. I've ordered them. I actually haven't opened the package yet. So we'll see. Yep. So that's my first work in progress. I have 4 today, which is way more than
that's
normal.
A lot.
Yeah.
I have 3, which I was like, oh, I thought that was a lot.
Yeah, no, I don't normally have 4.
I'll talk about this one because it's the one that I've made the least amount of progress on, and this is my book club cardigan. I think last time I showed this on a podcast, I had maybe just joined in the round, so I was probably like here-ish, and I finished the body and the ribbing.
I love the color.
The reason I haven't really made any more progress on this than that is because as I was knitting the body, it just kept looking small. And I would measure it, and it was measuring at like maybe 36 inches, which was way small. I'm knitting the second size.
That is small.
Which, if I remember correctly, I think it's supposed to be like 41. And I was like, oh, mine might be a little bit smaller because I know my cable gauge is slightly tighter than Sari Nordlund. So I was like, oh, hopefully I'll get like a 40-inch bust, you know? Like, that's kind of in my mind where I want it to be. And so when I kept measuring it and getting 36, I was like it was going to fit because I have about a 30-inch bust. But I was scared it wasn't going to have like that oversized cozy feel that I was hoping for. And so I wasn't feeling motivated to work on it. And so eventually I was like, I'm just going to block it. And depending on how blocking goes, you know, if it's still small after blocking, that might be my sign that I need to frog it and do something else with the yarn, or like try to remake it with a larger size or something. But I think I might have blocked this too aggressively because I was like, I want this to grow. It's now measuring like 44 inches. So I'm no longer worried about how it's going to fit.
If anything, it'll be big.
If anything, it'll be oversized. Like normally when I try to block things, especially when I'm blocking like swatches and stuff, I try to just let it lay as like naturally as I can because I'm like, I want the yarn to tell me what it wants to do, sort of thing. But with this, I was like, I'm going to like really stretch it. And I was like really aggressively blocking it. And maybe I didn't need to do that. So I am including 1 inch in like this part right here, which will be for the button band. Yeah. So technically this, from like end to end, it's measuring 43 inches. And I'm just adding like an extra inch when I know the button band's going to be added.
Okay.
But I'm feeling a lot better about it. Now I'm feeling motivated to work on it again. Now that I feel confident it's going to be that like cozy, oversized cardigan look that I wanted.
So, because you mid-blocked this, like you didn't finish it. I actually like to do that with cardigans because I feel like it tells you where the sleeves are.
Yeah.
Especially with something like cables, or drop shoulder in general, not just cardigans, but like knowing where that would hit will affect the sleeve length. So I think a mid-length or a mid-project block is good. Yeah. Regardless.
I think so too. I think I'll be glad that I did it. Not just one to confirm that it'll fit, but also just to know how know how the sleeve should fit. And I think it'll make picking up for the button band easier since it's laying like nice and smooth and flat.
Yes.
Like I think it'll be good.
I did that with my other cardigan I have on the needles too. So it's sad to have to wait a little bit, but kind of worth it, I think.
Yeah. And I don't think I talked about the yarn that I'm using, but I'll hold it up so you can kind of see what that looks like a little bit better. I'm using Woolstok worsted from Blue Sky Fibers, and I think the color is called Wild Thyme, and I'm using the 150 gram skeins, which I really like because if you're knitting like a solid color like this, you don't have to like constantly be adding a new skein, and it'll be like less ends to weave in the end. So that's one of my favorite yarns when it comes to just like basic worsted sweaters like this.
I talked about that in our fall plans too because I have yarn for the book club cardigan, but I'm telling myself I have to finish something before I do more cast on. So I have another cardigan on my needles, and I feel like I had a really fast start with this one, and now it's going a little bit slower. But I also have on my needles the jacket number 2 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. This is the back, but I think that the cables are really pretty, and so I thought I'd show that. I'm knitting it in Cascade. I thought it was Eco Merino. It's like kind of a bulkier Aran weight, but I've also seen it. Is it Ecological Wool or is it the Eco Merino? Eco. I wish I had the label, but I actually took a cardigan apart that I knit years ago, and I'm reusing the yarn for this, so I don't have a label.
Ecological Wool.
Ecological Wool, maybe. I will find out actually because I am kind of worried at this point that I might actually be playing yarn chicken, which I did not think was going to be an issue when I started this. And the Kansas City Yarn Crawl is in 2 weeks. So I remember I for sure bought this at the Yarn Barn in Lawrence, and we'll be going back there before too long for the Yarn Crawl. And I'm fairly confident they would still sell this. I couldn't imagine they would be getting rid of a Cascade yarn in their collection. So my plan is to do as much as I can so that I really have an idea of if I need more yarn, but I'm pretty sure I do. And if so, how much? Although I'm sure one skein would cover whatever I need because these are huge skeins. I remember them being like massive. But my plan is to bring like a swatch or something so that I can check and see how close to the yarn I get. I don't know if this has a dye lock because I think it's a natural.
Yeah.
Does that help or hurt my odds that I would be able to match it? Because it's been years, I'm sure.
I have no idea. Regardless, like, even if it's a pretty close match, I'd still, like, alternate skeins whenever you're blending it in.
Well, my plan... Tell me if this is a bad idea. Because I'm pretty confident I'll have enough yarn to get through most of each of the sleeves. And the body, I'm actually thinking the length is close to being done. So my plan was to do all of the body part and then save the ribbing for the new skeins. So like on each of the ribbings, like
in the button band too.
In the button band, yes.
Oh.
Would that be good or bad? Would it be better to try to alternate?
I think if it's really close, that would probably work.
Because I was thinking if it's just on the ribbing and button band, those have different textures.
So you might not notice.
So I was hoping that would...
I think it could work.
If not, I should probably stop here so that I could blend it in with... But then if it's only blended on one sleeve, oh my gosh. This is why I don't like not having enough yarn. I hate yarn chicken. Okay, if you have, opinions. I'm hoping that since it's a natural color, I don't think that this has dye in it. I'm hoping that will help my odds that it will be easy to kind of match. I don't know. I really like it though. I'm very proud of what I've done so far, so I don't want to abandon this project. Maybe we could over dye it. if it's that bad.
I'm planning on dyeing something this weekend, so I can let you. I mean, it's not a wool
Oh, this will not be done this week.
so I can let you know how it goes.
Okay. I guess
Although
maybe that's the backup plan. If
Not-
it's terrible, we'll just dye over it.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this color though. The other thing I'll mention about this, and I also mentioned it in our fall planning if you saw that episode, but in case you missed it and you're like eagle-eyed like Jessica, is that I did reverse the direction that the cables are going compared to what the pattern recommends. So the pattern has, let me see, I have to think about this. Would that be left-leaning cables?
Yeah.
Yes. And I did right-leaning cables just because I feel like, and I don't know why this is, but I feel like why am I having a hard time with this? Right-leaning cables
It's like the
come out neater than my left-leaning cables, just a little bit. And with it being all over one cable, I thought I might as well make it the better of them. And I literally thought no one would notice. And Jessica came over. I was not even that far into it, but immediately she was like, "Did you reverse the cables?" I was like, yes, I did. But it really has not had any effect on the pattern. There are 2 increases on the back because the construction is you cast on and then do increases down from the cables. And so there were 2 increases where right at the cable, it was a little funky compared to what I just kind of had to do my own thing compared to what the pattern said. But it was only those 2 places and it has not made any difference for the rest of it. And it was really an easy thing to figure out. So I'm happy with that choice. I don't know if anybody else will notice it or not, but I just thought I'd mention it in case anybody is like, wait, that's different than the picture, because mine is the reverse.
It's still so cute though.
I really like it. I really hope I can make the dye lots work because at this point I'm pretty attached. I love it. And oh, I'll also say this about yours since your book club cardigan was the same. This is another one where I blocked the body and now I'm doing the sleeves. So you might be able to tell a difference where this is looking tighter than the body is because the body has been blocked. And that was actually more of to see if I would have enough yarn because if I have to crop anywhere, it would be here. And so I kind of wanted to see how it laid and see where the length was.
Yeah.
But it's also helpful for the sleeves too.
Yeah.
So we will see. We'll figure it out. That's my second work in progress.
Okay. Well, I have another sweater that I'm working on, and this one's been kind of my main whip recently.
Oh,
This
it's beautiful.
is the Esther Sweater by PetiteKnit. And I'm using Ultra Alpaca by Moreca, which I believe is 50% wool and then 50% alpaca. So the alpaca adds a nice little halo to this yarn that I really like actually. It doesn't have quite like the halo that some of the fuzzier yarns, you know, like Merino or like Sari or like any of those yarns would have, but it does have like a little bit of a nice fuzz to it, which I really like, and it is a worsted weight yarn. So I'm just really enjoying all of the texture.
I can't wait to see this blocked.
I know. I think it's going to look so much better blocked. Right now it's looking kind of lumpy, but that's okay. And it has like tons of ends that I need to sew in. I need to like stuff those in there. But whenever I was buying yarn, I originally looked at doing like a DK and a mohair, which is what the pattern recommended. But all the combinations that I was finding, it was just going to be kind of expensive. And this one, I bought 5 skeins of this, which was just like a worsted weight yarn, and it was only like $78, which seemed a lot more reasonable. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try that. And when I did the math, I'm making the smallest size, it called for like 4.99 skeins. So I don't think I'm gonna play yarn chicken because I'm sure the pattern has some sort of, you know, like 5 to 10% of like extra yarn accounted for. So I'm sure
Hi, Conan.
Hi, Conan.
Should we put you in another room?
Hi, Bubbers. He just wanted his mom.
That's right.
Yes. Hi, Bubby.
Hi, Conan. So anyways,
I think I was saying when I did the math, I was gonna need like exactly 5 skeins. And so while I'm sure I'm gonna be fine, I don't think I'm gonna be playing yarn chicken per se. I think if I need to cut anywhere, I would rather cut like an inch off the body than I would to have sleeves that are too short. So I decided to go ahead, and once I finished the yoke and got to a place where I like ran out of yarn on the body and needed to connect a new ball anyways, I just went ahead and I did the collar, and then I've done one sleeve, and then I just started a second sleeve. So I haven't gotten too far on this one, but that's kind of my plan. I'm going to try not to crop the body if I don't have to, but if I have to, so be it, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
I really love this white. It's not like a white, like a stark white, but it doesn't have yellow under. I don't know. It's just really nice. I mean, I don't think this reads yellow. Like,
I don't think it reads yellow. It's maybe like a warm white, but it's not a yellow white, I don't think. Hold it up again. I'm really loving the texture. Like, you know, I'm a sucker for a good knit and purl texture.
It's
and
so
this
pretty.
This is so fun to knit. I really love it. It just, I don't know, there's something about it that's like kind of mindless. Like, I don't feel like I have to like, it's not like cables where it's like, oh, gotta grab an extra needle. And it's not like color work, you know, where it's like you gotta like constantly switch yarn or like finagle 2 yarns at the same time, which can be fiddly. And like, don't get me wrong, I love cables and I love color work, but like you do have to be in a certain mindset for it. I think this is a good, like, if you want slightly more than a stockinette, but you're like, I don't want quite as much mental capacity as like color work or cables, I think this is just a really good in between.
Okay, I've heard other people say this, and I think that this is true for me too. When this pattern first came out, I was not sure that I liked it.
Really? I was like immediately like, I love that.
I wasn't. And the more I see it, the more it grows on me. I don't know if it's the exposure over and over or what, but I don't know why I was not drawn to it at first, and now I really like it.
Yeah. I think it's really fun. One, I like that it's called the Esther Sweater. There was a lady that used to work where I worked who named Esther, who was very loved. She was like very influential and just a good leader to look up to. So I think it's kind of fun that it's like the Esther Sweater and like there's someone, you know, in my sphere.
You know an Esther.
I know an Esther, you know. And then also, for some reason, this diamond texture kind of reminds me of like the Eye of Sauron in Lord of the Rings. And right now Lord of the Rings is playing on Amazon, so I don't know, it just feels like it's like a good
I appreciate it. I feel like Lord of the Rings is a very fall, like,
it's a very fall thing.
I don't know how to explain that, but Lord of the Rings is fall.
It's fall, yes, and this is like a fall sweater. So one thing I was going to mention about this particular sweater is that if you look at the pictures of her shoulders, the shoulder seam where you pick up along the front is supposed to connect with one of the lines of just stockinette, like one of the places where you just knit the stitches all the way through, so it creates a line on the sleeve. So I'll show an example of that real quick. Basically that line there, so your sleeve, actually maybe it'll make more sense if I hold the camera. Basically, like where your shoulder seam is should match up with this line in your knitting on the sleeve. And she doesn't give instructions for making sure that that like fully lines up. She only provides instructions for how many stitches you're supposed to pick up on the sleeve. And so when I first did it, like I first picked up for the sleeve, mine was just a little bit off. Like it was maybe like 3 stitches off. And so I ended up having to take it back and then count and make sure that like I had a certain number of stitches up to that point and then a certain number of stitches after that point. And it's still equal to the number of stitches that she recommended, but I do wish that she had provided instructions of like, okay, when you're picking up for the right sleeve, pick up like it comes out to roughly like a third of the stitches up to the point if you're doing the back side first, and then 2/3 would be like the top of the shoulder and then around the front.
Yes.
And then opposite here where it'd be like 2/3 this way, connect with the line, and then do like a third down the other way.
Yeah, that would have been a nice detail.
It would have been a nice detail. It wasn't like that hard to figure out on my own. But the fact that I like picked up the stitches and like started and then realized later that those weren't matching up the way that they were supposed to was kind of, I was like, oh, it would have been nice to have had that like little bit of extra instruction.
I know, I think that those details are so nice when they actually kind of include them, you know, help you out.
Yeah.
Well, this is my last garment work in progress. So I have started on the Billy Pullover by Sari Nordlund. It doesn't look like very much right now, but I think I'm about 30 rows in. And she does say in the pattern that when you pick up stitches for the collar, it will like cinch it in a lot because this looks like a boat. It does not look, you can picture it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't look the way that I am thinking this will look in the end.
It definitely looks more like straight up and down than like the trapezoid shape you would expect.
It looks very wide.
Yeah.
But she says that will be fixed at the end. And so I'm really thinking before too long, because I have multiple skeins I can work with, I'm going to take another skein and start on the collar just so that I can have a little peace of mind, because this is not what I would like it to look like in the end. But we trust Sari Nordlund, so we will persevere. And I'm knitting this in Blue Sky Fibers Woolstok Worsted. Did I say that right?
I think so.
Hopefully. I'm asking because you're using this yarn for your Billy, or no, not your Billy, your book club cardigan. Yes. And you have knit a Billy cardigan before.
Yeah.
Did you use, I was going to ask, did you use the same yarn?
Yep. I think I used the color birch or birchwood, something like that. Yeah. It was more of like a beigey tone.
Oh, but yours is so beautiful. So I really, really like this yarn. I think that it's a nice balance between, you can definitely see the stitch definition, but it's not so perfectly rounded that it's like intense. Like it still kind of has a little subtlety to it, which I think is really nice. And it's a worsted. Conan's trying to scratch at the door. But it doesn't feel super like dense or thick. I feel like it's a really nice balance of, yeah, everything that I wanted for this yarn. So I'm not super far. I don't have a ton, I think, on the pattern to say, but I will say it is going a little bit faster than I expected. I kind of looked at all these cables and was like, this is going to take an eternity, and I think it will take a long time, but I think the worsted and just the fact that I'm excited about it, it didn't take that long to get 30 rows in. So I have hopes that this will be done within 2 months.
I think that's a good goal.
I think that's a good goal.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, especially because I've got multiple projects going right now. And I don't know, it's just very nice. It's not one that I can pick up all the time. Like I've kind of done it in 2 spurts where like one day I knitted half of this, it just like sitting down once, and then I didn't touch it for a few days, and then I came back to it and did another little bit. And when I sit down and I'm in the right mood for it, I think that this will go really, really fast. But will I work on this every single day? No, probably not, because some days it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So that's all I'll say about that one, because I'm not super far, but I'm excited to have it on the needles.
Okay. And I'll talk about my last whip. It's what I've been working on this whole time, and it's just a little pair of socks. So I'll hold it up, but this is In My Chiefs era socks from the Sorella collection. I think the day of the Super Bowl was the day that she released it. So it's just a a red yarn, and then it came with a little yellow mini skein. And then I purchased some white Malbrigo to go in the middle.
They're so cute.
They're so cute. I cast this on during the Thursday night games. This is going to be my little fall project. And I think I'm going to have enough. Well, I know for sure I'm going to have enough of the white to do like a whole white sock. So I think what I might do is after I finish this pair, assuming that like I enjoy them and they're cute and fun and everything, which I think they will be. They're just like basic stockinette socks. I think I could do like a white pair and then do yellow as like the thin color and then do red as the thick color. So I think I can get 2 pairs of socks with just like all of the colors like inversed. So that way the red's going to be like the main one in this one, but it'll just be like a little contrast color in another pair.
I think they're so cute. I have that yarn too, and I haven't cast it on because I've got another pair of socks on the needles, but like, oh, I cannot wait.
Yeah. I think it's really cute. Like, I'm really happy with how it's going. I will say when this yarn came in, I was kind of disappointed because I don't think that this is like a Chief's red. And it's maybe on camera it's looking a little more so, but in real life I do think this is like a very poppy red.
Yes.
This is not like a
softer.
It looks very soft. And I don't even know if you can kind of tell if I put it up against.
Ooh, I've got like this I think even has a little more poppy than the Chiefs, but like
this is closer though to what I was expecting, and you can see it's different.
It's more subtle.
Yeah. It's still cute. It's still fun. It's still like, I still feel like on theme, and like it was fun to work on during the game and everything. It's just, it's not the exact red that I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. It'll still be really cute. It'll still be fun.
I do fear. I fear that we're probably already there and I'm in denial. But I feel like we're in the like Patriots hatred era where the Chiefs. Guys, the Chiefs had some rough years for like a long time. Like we've been there. It's been bad. And so in the past couple of years since we got Mahomes, and Kelsey, and we've done really well. And
Taylor Swift.
And Taylor Swift now, obviously a Chief. But we've done really well. I think 2019 we went to the Super Bowl, and yeah, like in the past, 5, 6, 7 years, we've done much better. And to us, we're like, this feels so good because we've seen what it's like to be really, really bad. But I feel like we're now in the stage where people are sick of the Chiefs. But we're from Kansas City, so you have to give us a little grace because we're still excited about it.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll ride that wave. My last work in progress is also a pair of socks, and it feels like they're flying by. They're going really fast.
They really are. I feel like you just started those the other day.
Well, I only have one right now, but still, I mean, I really just started this, I feel like, and yeah, the stockinette is going really fast. So this is the Quilty Cabin Socks by Horse Feather Fibers, I believe. Let me hold this up so you can see the color work. It's got these little quilty motifs to it I think are so sweet. And I'm knitting this in Coast to Coast Classic Sock in the colors Midnight Crescent, which is part of the Coffee House collection, and then some leftover Button that I've just had, although Button was recently reintroduced in her quilt collection. So Button has been seen recently again, but this one's an older one. And I think this is actually my first pair of colorwork socks. It is not the first time I've tried colorwork socks, but I've tried many, but I've frogged all of them. And so this is the first one that I think will be staying in my sock collection. And it is inspiring, like making me want to knit more colorwork socks. And I've got a lot of leftover sock, like little skeins like this.
Mm-hmm,
so
I do too.
I need to do more color work so I can use those up. So that's felt really good. I don't know why I decided to make life difficult with these. I was having a hard time deciding what size to cast on because without giving too much of the pattern away, I felt like I was in between sizes. Like I could either choose one size, which would have been good for the stockinette part, but I know that sometimes color work can get tight, and I've frogged socks that I've knitted too tight before. Like I knitted almost the whole sock, realized that it didn't fit, and then abandoned or frogged. And so I was like, well, I should go with the bigger size because of the color work, but then I wanted the stockinette part to fit. I don't know, I was like really indecisive. And so what I ended up doing was casting on 60 stitches, which is what I would normally want for my stockinette with the size needle that I'm using, which is US 2, which is what the pattern recommended, I believe. I think. And so, which is not one of her recommended cast on stitches, but I did 60 stitches, and then I did a couple of increases when I got to the stockinette part because the color work starts pretty soon. And so then I increased, and then as soon as the color work was over, I decreased again, and then I realized that that was pretty much the length that I wanted, and so I stopped there. And I don't know why I had to make life difficult like that, because I could have just, probably casted it on the recommended and been fine, but I was just so nervous about it. And so my stitches are a little bit different other than in the color work from what the pattern recommends. I don't think you could really tell though, other than the fact that the ribbing kind of tucks in. Like, do you see how
once you block that,
yeah,
because ribbing always does that,
And also I think that that'll be nice because it'll be nice and snug against my ankles, or calf, wherever it hits. So I'm not mad about my choice, but I was like, I really probably didn't need to do all that. I just couldn't visualize where it was going to be.
Yeah.
So other than that though, like I said, flying by. So very excited to have those. And I'm just very inspired by socks right now. So those are my last works in progress.
I don't have any more works in progress, but I do have one sewing project.
I have, 2, but I'm wearing one, so yes.
Yeah. I honestly don't know how I feel about the sewing project.
Oh no. Oh, I know which one you're talking about now.
It's kind of weird. So I was watching TikTok one night, and Sydney Graham, who goes by Hi Sydney Graham, or maybe it's just Hi Sydney on Instagram. I feel like she's very well known. She has a YouTube channel. She makes absolutely beautiful patterns, but she did a TikTok about how she made a patchwork dress, and she featured this particular fabric bundle from Fabulism that I just thought was so beautiful. So I really didn't do much research. I just decided to purchase the pattern and purchase that same bundle of like fat quarter fabrics that she had mentioned, and I thought I would be good to go. However, I didn't really look into the measurements of the fat quarter bundles, and I did not compare that against the measurements of all of the panels in the fabric that were required for fabric in this dress, which I should have done, because what I didn't realize until after I had already made this impulse decision is that she did not use those fat quarter bundles for the third panel of her dress. She used just larger scraps of fabric. And I don't really have that many large scraps of fabric. I'm sure one day as I continue my sewing journey, I'll have a bunch of that, but I didn't have a bunch of fabric that would look good with this dress that I was excited about that I could use. So I was like, I'm just going to figure out how to use all of the fat quarter bundles in this dress in order to get the full length. And I probably could have cropped it and made a knee length or even a mini dress, and it would have been fine, but I was like, I'll just make 4 panels instead of 3.
I think it looks fine.
It's just a little too, I feel like the 4th panel makes it a little too patchworky. It feels a little costumey or a little too boho-y.
I think it's just so outside of the normal for you.
Yeah, and part of it was I really prioritized my favorite fabrics at the top, so by the time I got to the last panel, it was all of my least favorite fabrics that are all now right next to each other, and I'm like, that wasn't
what you wanted.
That wasn't what I wanted. That wasn't smart.
What would you do with the fabric if you took it apart?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I really don't. I think it's cute. I think it's just, again, outside of your
so
comfort
different
zone.
Yeah, it's just not, it's not my comfort zone. It's not what I would normally wear. in my mind, this was going to be so cute. And now in reality, I'm like, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I do love the pattern though. Like the dress fits really well, and the way it's constructed was really interesting. And it's nice because you can adjust it too. So if you want to wear like something underneath it, you can adjust it to make it like a little bit looser. Whereas if you're wearing it by itself, you can like adjust the bow in the back to make it a little tighter. And you can pick which side you want your bow on. So like I wanted my bow on this side.
That's nice.
So like there's a lot of like really nice details in the pattern, and it was super easy to sew. Like even given that I had to like do a ton of like patchworking in order to get the fabric, it was still a very easy make and like very quick to sew up. And if you made it in a solid color fabric, it would just like fly off your machine. It would be so fast. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how I feel about this one. It's okay.
It was a nice experiment.
It was a nice experiment. Yeah. I think what I learned is that I should not impulse purchase based on TikTok videos.
That's a good lesson.
It's a good lesson.
I understand that.
I feel like we've all been there at some point.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And sometimes it is fun to indulge. Like, it is, I think, most of the time good to think about what we actually wear, what am I putting my money towards. But, I mean, crafting is just fun, so it's okay to have fun.
Yeah, it just makes something that's just kind of funky. And
yeah, we wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun, so.
Yeah, it was fun to make, so yeah.
Well, my last project, I would say, was somewhat in the same as yours in that I don't know if I'll wear it a ton, but it was fun because I knit the matchy boxer shorts.
You sewed?
I sewed. Did I say knit?
I love those shorts. What are you talking about?
Okay, I love them.
They're so
I love
cute.
them. I love them. But I feel like style here in the Midwest is like, how would you help me out? I feel like we are the last to get trends and styles.
Yeah.
I feel like people dress very casually here. And so I loved them. I was like, these are so cute. And then I went and wore them one day and I was like, oh, people are going to think these are pajamas.
But,
like,
but in a good way.
I kind of got self-conscious about it because, yeah, I feel like people where we live would think that they are actual pajamas that I'm wearing out in public. And so if they are just pajamas, that's okay.
I think they're cute.
Really
I think you should wear them.
They're really cute pajamas. But I didn't intend them to be. And then I kind of was like, oh, I don't know. I really like them too, but I don't want other people to think that I'm like wearing sleepwear out. I don't know. I think if I lived in like New York or LA where people are very like on trend and very like in the Pinterest fashion girly sphere, but I feel like, and there are people here, like the Midwest has some great style too, but I think the majority of people might not get the trend.
Everything is cute.
We'll see. I don't know. But the pattern itself, very easy. I had a little fiddly stuff turning the straps, which normally I don't have a lot of trouble turning the straps. So I don't know if it was the fabric or what, but that was the part that actually took the longest. Other than that, they also fly by. Very easy. Probably pretty good for beginners. Yeah, I liked the pattern. I think what I might do is remake them in more of a bottom weight structure. I think that the lightweight striped fabric that I used, which was just a thrifted sheet that I found, I think that the stripes maybe add to the pajama-ishness and the lightweight fabric. I think if I did it in more of like a bottom weight structure, do you think that would help?
Maybe.
Because
it's worth trying.
I think that would alleviate some of my pajama worry. I think it's the stripes. I don't know if there's something about them.
I think they're cute. I like
but they
them.
are cute. They are really cute. I love the fit of them. So that's what I sewed.
Yeah. So maybe not our most successful sewing time of year, but that's okay.
You know,
it is what it is. Your skirt turned out really
yeah,
cute.
I
so
love this skirt. So I actually see myself making this in several other fabrics. I love this skirt. So we've had some wins, we've had some maybes, not necessarily fails. I don't think that
it's just part of the journey of like figuring out what you like and don't like, and things change.
Yes. And what you like versus what fits into your wardrobe and your lifestyle and maybe the people around you. Or we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't regret making them, even if I do just wear them as pajamas. I think that they're so cute, so I'm not mad about that. But
Yeah.
just thoughts about it, you know.
Yeah.
Do you have any acquisitions?
No acquisitions for me today. Mostly, well, you mentioned earlier that the yarn crawl is coming up here
Yes.
soon, and we're planning to attend that. I don't think we're going to make it to every shop, but we're planning on making it to the majority of shops. So.
I think at least 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
There's one that's pretty far away from us, because when we say Casey Yarn Crawl, it's really spanning quite a broad range. It's not all just Kansas City, so it's actually pretty hard to get to all of them.
Yeah. So point is, I'm trying to not bring anything new into my life or into my like knitting life until I know what I find there and, you know, what kind of comes out of that if I end up making some purchases. And I'm not going into it with any like expectations of like, okay, I want yarn for like this specific sweater or anything. I do want to make like a list of like potential ideas, so that way if I find yarn that I love, like I have thoughts to make with it, because I don't like purchasing yarn without some sort of pattern in mind. And then that way too, I have like a basis for how much yardage I'll need and things like that. So I do want to make a plan, but I just don't know what's gonna go. Like, you know, maybe I'll get a ton, maybe I'll get nothing. I don't know. So I just don't want to like purchase any other yarn until I know what my stash looks like at the end of the month from that event, if that makes sense.
Yes, I'm in the same boat, but I do have an acquisition that is not yarn related, which is rare. I bought a book. Oh, I feel like everyone has this book already.
It's so pretty though.
And I was very interested in it, but I don't know why I like to see books in person versus online. I feel like when you're able to actually flip through and see all of the patterns as opposed to just what online gives you, you kind of get a better sense of if it's something that you'll like or not. And I would love to expand my knitting book collection. So I bought The Sock Project by Summer Lee. I love her design. She's more colorful than I think my style fits in with, but the designs themselves lend so beautifully
Look at
to
all of
pretty
this.
much any color. Yeah, look at, I mean, some of them just feel so classic. Some of them feel really good for using up stash yarns, because I have a lot of stash sock yarns. And I just, when I was flipping through this book, I was like, I really think that I'll get a lot of use out of it. It's got 25 patterns in it. It's got some good information about basic sock patterns, different heel constructions. It's got some stuff for like the normal sock weight, fingering, and DK. And it's got like cables and color work and texture. And I just feel like it's a good all-encompassing sock book. And I've knit several Summer Lee patterns, so at this point I know that I like her style and her writing and things like that. And I was like, this book is coming home.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to use it a little bit. I'm still working on these socks. I only cast on one sock at a time, because otherwise I would probably only knit socks, and I do like to have sweaters. So, but that's my only acquisition this time. I'm saving yarn for later in the month.
Well, thank you so much if you've made it this far. I hope you've made some good progress on whatever it is that you're working on this afternoon, and we'd love to hear more about whatever it is that you're working on or what your fall plans look like. Always love just hearing what people are working on, especially if anyone has like made any of these patterns before and has any tidbits of advice to share. We always love reading about that.